Welcome in, everybody. We are diving deep today, going way beyond those headlines you see, really getting into it. Mental health, substance use, and the resources for veterans. And it can be pretty overwhelming to navigate if you're not sure where to even start. We're talking friends, family members, anyone who's served facing these challenges. Where do they even begin?
Yeah, and it's a lot more common than people realize. The numbers are, honestly, they can be kind of staggering when you see how many veterans are dealing with mental health stuff, substance use, or both.
We've got an article here that really drives that point home. It basically says veterans are dealing with these challenges more often than the general population.
Right, and that's where things get interesting. It's not enough to just see the numbers. We got to understand what's behind them.
Absolutely.
This article digs into combat exposure, the trauma a lot of veterans carry, even the difficulty of coming back to civilian life after everything.
The huge adjustment.
Totally. It's like stepping back into a world that's moved on while they've been through this life-altering experience.
And the article even makes that connection, right, between combat, trauma, and then turning to substances to cope.
Exactly. You can't separate those things. Especially for veterans, mental health and substance use, they're often intertwined.
So then we get to the VA, which, let's be real, can seem like this huge, intimidating system to navigate. The article does lay out some initial steps, though, like checking your eligibility, enrolling, then connecting with a primary care provider, or maybe getting into a program specifically for substance use disorders, SUDs.
And it's important to be clear about what we mean by SUDs, right? We're talking about a whole range of conditions, alcohol dependence, opioid addiction, serious stuff that impacts veterans at a really alarming rate.
Right, and the article talks about this idea of personalized care, but what does that actually look like for a veteran who's battling something like PTSD or opioid addiction?
Well, it means moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach, for sure. It's about understanding that every veteran, their experiences are unique, so are their triggers, their needs.
So for someone with PTSD, that might mean what? Trauma-informed therapy,
Right.
support groups, things like that.
Exactly. And then you've got someone battling opioid addiction. Maybe they need medication-assisted treatment, counseling, maybe even addressing chronic pain if that's a factor.
It's about recognizing that each veteran's journey is different, and their treatment plan has to reflect that.
100%. And what I appreciate is that this article doesn't just stop at traditional VA healthcare.
They highlight this specific treatment center, Longbranch Recovery and Wellness. They've got locations in Louisiana and Arkansas. But what makes them different is this focus on specialized care just for veterans. So what's the impact of that, having that kind of tailored approach?
It's huge because you're talking about understanding military culture, the specific things veterans have been through, the challenges they face.
Right, it's not just a general approach.
Exactly. Longbranch, they've got residential treatment, outpatient services, aftercare, all designed with veterans in mind.
Makes you realize there's a whole spectrum of care needed.
Absolutely.
The article really emphasizes the importance of just having information, empowering veterans and their families with knowledge, right?
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
They mentioned the VA's digital guide to mental health services. That seems like it would be a good starting point for anyone who's just overwhelmed by the system.
It is. It walks you through everything from eligibility to the different types of services available. And for family members, they've got a caregiver support line, which is so important because supporting a loved one through all of this, it's a lot.
Oh yeah, family members, caregivers, they need support too.
They're on this journey too. It's not just the veteran.
And sometimes just hearing from others who've walked that path, who've been there, it can make such a difference.
Where does a veteran or their loved one even begin to navigate all this?
That's the question, right? Because it can feel completely overwhelming. I think the key is just to start somewhere. Reach out, pick up the phone, go to a website, just taking that first step, even if it feels impossible, that's what matters.
It is, and it's about meeting people where they are because everyone's at a different point in their journey, and that's what's so powerful about all these resources we've talked about. It's not about a one-size-fits-all solution. It's about giving veterans and their families choices, giving them information, and helping them understand that they're not alone.
This deep dive has been about navigating, well, it's a complicated landscape, but it really comes down to a pretty straightforward message. There's hope and there's help. We've looked at the stacks, the challenges, the way the system works or sometimes doesn't. But we've also seen how resilient veterans are, how dedicated people are to serving them, and how powerful human connection can be, especially when things are tough.
It's inspiring, honestly.
It really is. And if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from this, it's that asking for help, it's not a weakness, it takes strength. Whether you're a veteran yourself or you love and support a veteran, never forget that you're not alone. There are people out there who understand, there are resources available, and there's a path forward, even when it's hard to see. It's been great diving into this with you today. It's a conversation that deserves our attention, our empathy, and our support for those who have served our country. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, every step towards healing, no matter how small, it's a victory worth celebrating. We'll see you next time. Take care.
If you or a loved one are struggling with substance use, we can help. Call Longbranch Recovery at 504-474-7927 or visit longbranchrecovery.com to learn more about our specialized addiction treatment programs. Start your path to recovery at Longbranch.